Hello, Squidward. This is the Construct. It's our loading program. You've been living in a dream world, Squidward. This is the world as it exists today. Hi everyone, I'm Jess. Today I'm going to be recreating my all-time favorite moment from SpongeBob SquarePants out of polymer clay. A moment that I've recently learned appears to have been inspired directly from The Matrix. I'm going to make Squidward out of clay today, and tomorrow I'll sort of animate it. I'll be exploring themes that I believe are part of what make this episode so creepy and memorable. I didn't realize I'd be writing an entire essay about SpongeBob SquarePants. I was just trying to make a meme, but here we are. First thing I have to do is blend some clay together to get Squidward's body color perfect. I'm going to start with white as a base, gonna add a little yellow, and then maybe like a hint of blue to kind of turn it slightly green. My favorite episode of SpongeBob is called SB129, which is the production code. Squidward accidentally freezes himself for 2,000 years and has some complications with the time machine is the basic premise. Pieces, just gotta condition the clay, gotta warm it up. So in this episode, Squidward goes to the future, he goes to the past, he comes back home again, only to realize that he's actually the one that invented jellyfishing, to his dismay. The episode has a few quotable moments, like everything in the future is chrome, and when Squidward gets on the ground, he starts doing crunches, and he's like, future! And you may remember the alone. The alone scene. That's the moment I'm gonna be recreating, because I always just liked it and found it really creepy and kind of disturbing. The episode aired on December 31st, 1999, hours before the new millennium. It involved time travel in a way that I believe was sort of a commentary on the new millennium. If you have Amazon Prime, you can go watch this episode for free. It's season 1, episode 14. It's like 10 minutes. You can watch it. It's great and come right back. Might make me make a little bit more sense. Oh, why is it so hard? I thought it was a really cool choice to air this episode on this day in particular, because the eerie, bizarre strangeness of this episode probably hit way harder due to a lot of the world being on edge about what was going to happen after the strike of midnight. I was too young at the time to really sense it, but a lot of the world was really weirded out by the idea of the new millennium approaching. I've never really looked into it, but I did a good amount of research to understand why people were so freaked out about Y2K. The United States government was at the time saying that the Y2K bug really was going to be an issue because a lot of our infrastructure was built on computers. Some members of the population went absolutely nuts. This is a real statistic you can look up. 8 to 10% of the population literally feared apocalypse. People were stockpiling rations, people were withdrawing large amounts of cash. There was a big fear that there was going to be a major blackout. Put too much yellow in. So the Y2K era was basically this. At the time, for mainframe computers and personal computers, storage was very expensive. Anywhere from $10 to $100 per kilobyte compared to the fraction of a cent per kilobyte memory is today. It was really important for programmers to reduce their usage as much as possible. Data files on computers were stored as 6 digits, so date, month, year. They abbreviated years on computers to save space to just the last 2 digits. This saved some money by reducing the size of stored files. As the end of the century and the millennium approached, and the year on computer was still just stored as 2 digits, people wondered, what's going to happen in the year 2000? Are the computers going to think it's 1900? Is this going to cause credit cards and the entire banking system to mess up? Mixing some green in here to Squidward. So the solution was simple. They went into computers and they just changed the date to be 4 digits long. In some cases, this was pretty expensive to do, but most things were fine. There were task forces that it was expensive, but ultimately the Y2K fears were not confirmed. There were very few computer and clock failures that were reported, although there weren't none. There were a couple clocks and things that read 1900. Just imagine, Squidward Tentacles is in this broken time machine. He goes to the future, just like we were about to enter a new millennium. It was entering the future. Squidward goes to the past, somewhat mirroring how we were all scared the clock. We're gonna go back to the past. We're gonna read 1900. And then Squidward goes to this disturbing void of nowhere. If you were someone old enough to feel these pre-millennium fears, this episode would have really freaked you out. This episode, like the nowhereness, really always freaked me out, and I didn't even really know what was going on in the world. I thought it was a really good choice to air this episode when they did. It's supposed to look like Squidward. God damn. The first Matrix movie came out exactly 9 months prior to this episode coming out. I may be wrong on this, but I think that the people running this show would have had time to be inspired by this movie and created into a SpongeBob episode 9 months later. The alone scene so closely resembles the construct scene. I can't imagine that that movie wasn't a reference for this episode. I watched an excellent YouTube video about this episode from a YouTuber by the name of Karsten Runquist. That video taught me that this episode explores themes of the eternal recurrence. This is a concept by late 1800s German writer Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence writings were more of an ethical thought experiment meant to provoke us to consider our own lives and the weight of our behaviors. So I'm going to paraphrase some of his writing in the book The Gay Science. This life, as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and an innumerable number of times more. And there will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy must return to you, all in the same order. The eternal hourglass of existence is turned over and over, and you with it a grain of dust. Nietzsche wants us to ask ourselves, do we want this life an innumerable number of times again? Are we willing to live more life, even if it means we're condemning ourselves in a way to be reborn as ourselves over and over and over again? He's not saying that we lack free will or that everything is meaningless or anything. He's saying that our decisions in this life do have weight, because how we choose to live today will be replayed indefinitely into eternity. He really preached the idea of the joy in the circle. Recall the number of different versions of his own life that Squidward peeks into by way of the time machine. He encounters SpongeBob, Patrick, and jellyfishing in the future and in the past. It's my personal theory that he encounters all three in the nowhere as well. See those yellow and pink squares on the right? They look familiar to me. I think that those squares are SpongeBob and Patrick. The reddish square could be Mr. Krabs or Patrick's rock house. The purplish ones could be Squidward's house. I originally thought the brown square was Squidward's shirt, but upon further thought, I think that that square is a jellyfishing net. Squidward originally became frozen because he was desperately seeking a quiet place to be alone with his clarinet. In the nowhere, or in the construct, there's a blue square on the floor that I believe represents Squidward himself. When he peels it up to look under it, it just fades away and disappears. Squidward realizes that the only way he can actually be alone is if he literally ceases to exist. He finally received exactly what he wanted when he entered the nowhere. He's happy for a moment when he's alone, but becomes distraught upon realizing that this quiet space comes at the expense of existing in the material world. He freaks out because he realizes he does not want to be in the nowhere. He does want to live life, even if he has to endure infinite annoyances. After he bursts through the floor of the nowhere back into the time machine, he cries out, "I want to go home. I miss Bikini Bottom. I even miss SpongeBob." For some reason, this realization that he does want to live is what ultimately gets the time machine to take Squid back to his own time, where he realizes that he's actually the dumb barnacle head that invented jellyfishing, thus creating the circle that always repeats. Another quick question. Why would Squidward have his clarinet with him in the nowhere? It brings me back to the construct scene in The Matrix where Neo is told, "Your appearance now is what we call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of your digital self." This could explain why his clarinet is with him, or why he's even visible to himself in a room of absolute nothing. Anyway, take what you want from this, it's all just theory. To sum it up, this episode felt strange because of Y2K fears, the exploration of the eternal recurrence, and Matrix similarities. Let me know in the comments if you have any other theories about SB129. Here is Squidward's clarinet. It's okay, the proportions are a little weird, but I like it. Here's Squiddy. I'm really happy with how it came out. I couldn't get the eyelids to work, but I think this is gonna be just fine. I'm gonna go put Squidward in the oven, gonna clean up all my clay. I'm gonna use lots of apricot scrub to get all the clay off my hands. I'll be back tomorrow to animate the whole scene. Hi, I'm back. I just wanted to make a note real quick. I'm not a philosopher or anything. I figured that the clay stuff I was making was pretty straightforward. I just wanted to talk about a few interesting and relevant things that I had heard and read about SB129. I may have taken it a little bit too far with the Nietzsche stuff, but I really think I could be correct about the squares in the nowhere on the floor and ceiling. I was just gonna do the next part of the project with paper, but I thought about it and I think clay would look way cooler. I have the alone scene all printed out. I'm not gonna try copy it exactly. I'm just gonna interpret it whatever way I feel like, and I'm not gonna use every single alone. As I work on the final part of this project, I want to talk about a couple other early SpongeBob episodes that I always found creepy. Alright, so
creepy episodes. First of all, I'd have to say Squidville is a pretty bleak episode, particularly when we see Squidward commuting and buying canned bread and sitting in a cubicle over and over and over again. Brings me back to a more pessimistic view of the eternal recurrence. Next, why is Rock Bottom so eerie? Maybe it's the absolute darkness of the abyssal zone of the ocean that the town is in. Or maybe it's just the idea of being lost somewhere where you don't know the language and you aren't entirely sure where you even are and you can't catch the bus because you're reaching for the snack machine.
Rock Bottom reminds me of the type of dreams that I have when I'm stressed out.
In Squilliam Returns, Squidward tells SpongeBob to forget everything he knows so he can learn fine dining in 20 minutes. SpongeBob's mind being shown like that is pretty funny.
Can you imagine being able to just clear your own mind like that? Like, just delete everything? I wish.
Finally, one of my favorites. In Squid's Day Off, Squidward has ditched work to run errands, but he really just goes home. He's tormented by SpongeBob asking, "Have you finished those errands?" over and over and over again. That kind of anxiety kind of reminds me of the past year we've had.
In this pandemic, we are all Squidward. Plenty of time at home, but completely unable to relax in the bath.
No more SpongeBob. I may finally have found a place where I can be all alone.
Alone.
Alone. Alone.
Alone.
I gotta get out of here!
Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Every Thursday here, I make a weird thing that I think should exist or exist differently, as well as demonstrate crafty hobbies that you may find fun. Comment below a weird thing that you think should exist or exist in a different way, and if it's up my alley, I will try to make it happen. And let me know what you think of this excessive green screen usage. Was it fun or was it too much? Let me know. Finally, in 2 weeks, I'm gonna be posting a video about a ridiculous costume that I have been working on for a while, so I will see you then. I'm on Instagram as Jessica Crafternoon in between uploads. Please like and subscribe. Bye!